Photographic History by Dr. Sylvan Spooner. Um, Lots of us have personal memories of Hurricane Janet, and if we ourselves did not live through it, like me, we have a relative who did. I have memories of spending summers up at my grandmother's story where she regaled me with stories of how she carried my aunt and my mother and hid them up under the bed when the roof started to lift off, and how they didn't really understand the intensity of the storm that was happening. So she went to carry food for a neighbor, and when she was coming back home, she said the wind picked her up and deposited her back on her doorstep. And the memory of Barbados is full of stories and memories like these. Dr. Sylvan Spooner, he has documented a number of them via oral histories. He has also done research in the records of Barbados, and this very important work gives us a recounting of that history, the way how it affected Barbados before, during, and after the storm, and the impact, the long-lasting impact that it's had on our infrastructural, social, economic, and fiscal systems of Barbados. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going on and on and on because the man of the moment is right here, and it is really about him and this important book. As you are aware, you've seen earlier this morning that we also launched The Winds of Change, an exhibition which looks at the impact of Hurricane Janet. Quite a bit of the content there is based on information that he shared with us from his research. It's also got some oral histories that we ourselves did with some members of our museum community, and also some vignettes that were done as a product of an oral history workshop with another of our older persons who lived through the hurricane, and what the students took away from that, which shows you how applied theater can really be used as a tool for memory and learning. But coming back to the item at hand this morning, I would like to introduce Dr. Spooner now. He's going to make some author's remarks, and then he will read a couple extracts from the book. Thank you.
Thank you, and hi, good morning again. I extend thanks to each and everyone who made time out of their busy morning to attend this launch, the launch of what I consider to be a very important documentation of a moment in our history which we have all heard something about. Some of us would have lived through it, some of us would have heard about it, and I believe that this would make a welcome addition to some of the memories that persons have, and in addition to some of the stories that persons would have heard. First of all, I'd like to thank the Barbados Historical Society, Museum and Historical Society. I'd like to thank Ms. Gay Hall, for making this possible, this event, and as well as the publication. I would like to thank William for his insights, his hard work. Yes, he was very instrumental in the design and the layout, and he did fantastic work. Hurricane Jeanette. I wasn't alive when Hurricane Jeanette struck the island. I was 20 years away from it, but I always found it fascinating. My mom told me stories about it, and similar to Kay, I was told stories where parents and grandparents seeking shelter from the hurricane. They went either to relatives who had sturdier housing, and my grandmother, she took my mother and her sister, and this is the first time I heard about Hurricane Jeanette. My grandmother took her mother and her sister, my mother and her sister to Cottage Plantation Yard, and they had to stay in the stables there. And the stables got crowded. My grandmother took my mother and my aunt back to her flattened house. The house by this time was flattened. And when my grandmother got back there, they had to go and shelter under the flattened house. And my grandmother said, um, Merlin, don't talk so hard. I don't want your neighbors to know that we under here hiding from this hurricane. So that was the first instance I heard about Hurricane Jeanette, and it piqued my interest, it piqued my curiosity from that time. I heard that story probably when I was 5 years old in around 1980, 81. And and I guess we all have stories that we can share, but I wanted to document this history. I wanted to put it in a concise, standalone document, um, which we could share with friends and relatives, and I believe that we have done a good job in presenting this research. I have a few readings which I found uh, uh, interesting during the research phase. We all heard about the Pilgrim Holiness Church in Lodge Hill, Lodge Road. 16 persons died there. There were 200 persons sheltering in that church, that mission hall. It collapsed and 16 persons lost their lives at that point in time. I think 70 or 80 were injured, along with the 16 who lost their lives. And that was probably one of the more tragic stories of Hurricane Jeanette. And they one of the standalone, most shocking, most tragic events which ever happened on the island. I'll just read a couple extracts from that. And this is on page 34. Although stories of heroism abound, the parish of Christchurch was the site of the greatest human tragedy of the hurricane. The dreadful collapse of the Pilgrim Holiness Church at Lodge Road, near Oystons Hill, resulted in the death of 16 of the 200 men, women, and children who sought shelter there. Filled to capacity, with each person seeking the safety which they felt that their homes could not provide. In addition to those who lost their lives, dozens, let's rephrase that, filled to capacity, with each person seeking the safety which they felt their homes could not provide. In addition to those who lost their lives, dozens were injured by the falling debris in the stampede which occurred at this church. The Barbados Advocate, reporting on the tragedy the following day, described a quote, appalling scene, unquote, as grieving relatives braved the still turbulent winds in an effort to find relatives. The Lodge Road tragedy, which claimed 16 lives, led to an outpouring of emotion across the island. 10 of the 16 persons who lost their lives in the church were residents of the surrounding Lodge Road community. And within the House of Assembly, condolences were offered by members of Parliament to families of those who perished there. From an official island-wide death toll of 38, I later found that it was actually 37. 14 of that number were residents of Lodge Road, with 4 residents of that community losing their lives beyond the confines of the church. The youngest resident of the community to lose their life was a mere 7 months old. As a result of its position on the extreme southern end of the island, numerous houses and small shops within the community were destroyed. One of these, the Lodge Road Parlor, which is now Ardell's, located adjacent to the church, that was also heavily damaged by gusts, which at times exceeded over 100 kilometers per hour. With regard to that church, one gentleman, he lost his grandmother, and he lost his son in that church as well. So, and when I spoke to him, the person broke down in tears, about the level of tragedy which had befallen his family, and he also told stories that he knew others who lost loved ones in the tragedy as well. And that site exists today, and I believe that some memoriam should be placed at that particular church in Lodge Road to mark what was one of the singular, most tragic incidences in this island's history. But the hurricane wasn't always about tragedy and suffering. Um, Persons also extended a helping hand to their neighbors. At Graham Hall Plantation, 1,000 residents, refugees, they were fed. Um, at Faulty, the home of one Mr. Jones, 120, they were given shelter. At Bertha Chase House, 60 took refuge there. So the hurricane was not just one about falling buildings and people dying, people being beheaded. It was also one of camaraderie, where persons under pressure responded well and they helped their neighbors. And I read my mother's account of the incident again. She was 17 then. And I quote, in 1955, when the house blew down, we had to crawl up under it and sleep during the night. We sheltered under a lime tree until the wind stopped. There was more rain than wind. And that's a constant refrain in relation to Hurricane Jeanette. They said that there was quite a bit of wind. There was more rain than wind. When it stopped, we went to Cottage Yard, but I had to leave because you couldn't stay there forever. We went by my aunt, but you know, my mother and people used to get away quick. So they get away, and my mother said, "Come, let me go." And she took us to sleep under our house that fall down until my uncle put it back up. So if you can imagine a house flat on the ground, and a mother and two daughters under there trying to shelter, was still trying to remain discreet. That is another story. While hearing it as a boy, I found that fascinating. There are other stories that I also found tragic. There were stories about Ruth Welch. She was 2 years old, and her grandmother, she was taking young Ruth to a shelter, and a gust of wind pulled young Ruth from her grandmother's arms, and Ruth was found in a pond a mile away, drowned. There was Frank Went, another child, and they were seeking shelter in a particular house. The house collapsed, killed his father, crushed his skull, and he died a few days later at the General Hospital. So those are some of the stories which tragic, need to be brought to light to show that Barbadians suffered during the hurricane. Not only persons from neighboring islands, but Barbadians did suffer, but they remained resilient in spite of the tragedy which occurred. But when it comes to relief and hurricane aid, politics get involved. Some groups, some representatives believe that the major parishes at Christchurch, St. Philip, were getting too much aid, and there were a lot of jealousies, and that came out in the national debates. For instance, the representative for St. John, Mr. Alder, he made complaints that too much aid was going to Christchurch and St. Michael, and he complained in the House of Assembly that um, the suffering in St. John is equal to the suffering which was occurring in Christchurch and St. Michael. I'm just going to read a quote from him. But I'm going to not give that quote. I'm going to give another quote. Um, some persons believe that working class Barbadians were ungrateful for the assistance they were given, not only from local contributors, but from international and regional contributors. And in one letter to the editor, one member of what is believed to be uh, persons who had returned to the island just before Hurricane Jeanette, this individual, in a letter to the editor, believed that working class Barbadians were ungrateful for the assistance given. And the reason for this, that some young working men had refused to offer assistance to persons in need, and this writer took umbrage with what they perceived to be ungratefulness on the part of the working class. And this person said, I wonder if they stopped to consider for a moment where all the free food and clothing were coming from. Subscriptions from people like you and me, and a grant from government. And yet they refused to lend a helping hand to feed their families unless they were paid. When some people were served with saltfish, they refused it, saying that they did not eat it. Saying that they did not eat it. What does the average poor person eat but rice and saltfish? Had I been the benefactor, I would have turned those people away. So those are just some of the interactions and responses to the tragedy in relation to Hurricane Jeanette, where persons felt, yes, we can give aid. Some persons accepted aid. Some persons believed that members of the working class were not grateful enough for the assistance that they were given. But yet others, one final quote, others believe that the members of the middle and upper classes were not as given as they should be. And another letter to the editor, a writer said, the upper strata of society had not been disturbed by Hurricane Jeanette. Jeanette had not blown long enough or hard enough for that. Those higher in the social scale had done in the main little to help. On the beaches of Sunday mornings, immediately after the passing of the hurricane, the eye was still saddened by the spectacle of lousy matrons, overfed and undernourished, with their traditional starches and cloying sweets. Old hags continue to flaunt their fading charms. So this writer believed that the members of the middle classes should have given more to the recovery effort, but everyone suffered during Hurricane Jeanette. It was a moment where there was shared grief, even if it was grief to different degrees. And I believe that, it is remaining of collective memory, our social memory. And it is something that needed to be documented. It is something that needed to be absorbed. And it is something that needs to be kept in the forefront of our memory as a seminal moment in our history. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Dr. Spooner. Um, at this time, we're going to open the floor to any questions anyone might have before we do the presentation of the books or any comments. Are there? Oh, yes, Dr. Carter.
Good morning, everybody, and
Do you want to?
Well, good morning again. It is a privilege to be here to support Dr. Spooner in the publication and launch of his second book. And he's also done a book on the history of petroleum in Barbados. And of course, he's working on this third right now at Joe Walcott.
Third is already published.
It's already published.
Joe Walcott is going to be number 4.
Well, my goodness. Excellent work. So I want to congratulate Sylvan, because Sylvan is one of our outstanding graduates of the Cayfield campus. And he, I want to stress this, is the first person to write a program for Today Bajan History. It was Sylvan who wrote the first 7 articles for the radio program. And he's an amazing student. And I want to say that this project is significant because as a nation, as a republic, you must tell your history. And this is a seminal moment in our history because it tells about tragedy, it tells about how the island recovered from this tragedy. And going forward, we have to write about these seminal moments. But beyond that, and beyond the exhibition, and I want to applaud the museum for the exhibition as well. But beyond that, to produce documentaries, to produce movies about these occurrences, about these moments. That is what makes a nation. It builds a nation because it tells the story of the nation. We cannot keep the story in our minds, in our heads, so that when we leave, it is lost. We must put the story in writing. And for that, I am so happy and so honored to be here to see Dr. Spooner and to congratulate you for this amazing piece. Thank you. God bless you all. Congratulations.
Do we have any other questions or comments, or? Okay, well then I think we can probably proceed. I will say who will come, and Sylvan will present you with your copy of the book. Sylvan, here is your pen. Don't forget to autograph. We're going to start with the Media Resource Department, without whom this book would not have been possible. A number of the photographs in the book were reproduced with the kind permission of the Media Resources Department. We have Mr. Lowe accepting his copy.
Media Resource Department, not Mr. Lowe. I know.
And the Media Resource Department is, of course, now a part of the Ministry of Education and Transformation. Yes. I would like to next call Ms. Harriet Pierce from the Barbados Museum and Historical Society's library. And of course, most importantly, because it is a legal requirement, not that we would not have given them a copy anyway, but the National Library Service. And I believe that you two know each other. I believe that Dr. Spooner has a long, long relationship with your microfiche and other facilities.
Yes, and we will be pleased to know that we have digitized the microfilm and it will soon be available for public use.
I think everybody should clap for that. I believe the UWI library has a representative here as well. Ms. Wood, it's not? There we go. One of the things inspired by this exhibition inspired by the book was the exhibition which we now have mounted in our upper courtyard. There are a few things that you will see replicated between the two. And the idea is that this is a public education, a public awareness opportunity for many of our units. And you will see the Department of Emergency Management's logo on the exhibition because they are partnering with us on a public education program surrounding both the book and the exhibition. So at this time, I'd like to call someone from DEM to come. Simon.
Right. I just want to put in a plug to remind you all that we are still in hurricane season. Hurricane season goes to November, and historically we do get a lot of active weather between September to November. So please, please be prepared, get ready, and we will do our part at the national level. Thank you so much, Dr. Spooner. Thank you. Let's turn the book and take another picture.
The University of the West Indies Department of History and Philosophy.
I'll get my personal copy.
We had sent an invitation for Rodney,
Uh-huh.
but I think it might kind of late, but he is aware.
Okay. So this one's for history. I'll get my personal copy.
What is it?
Huh?
History Department, University of West
This is UWI, of the UWI, the UWI. Careful campus. There it is now. Thank you.
The library of the Eardiston Teachers Training College. We have quite a few libraries in Barbados with quite the impact on our students, so we're going to have a couple more libraries, but I promise we're getting there. The Library of the Barbados Community College is going to be the next stop.
You want to do it again?
Yeah. Thank you.
Eardiston College.
I think Sylvan's hand is probably getting a little tired at this point. We actually have a bit of a relationship with BCC. We attend their career showcases. A number of their student units come to the library across a number of different units. And of course, we have a relationship with their history department. So we'll be calling upon the history department to receive their copy next.
Go again.
BCC, the history department, the head of the history department, Dr. Bergman. His work is here. And last but not least, we have two special presentations. One is to William St. James Cummins, who did the layout of this book. We explained to him that yes, it is a history book, but we did not want it to be with all of these wonderful photographs, a dry history book that people just thumb through the pages and then they put it down. And he went above and beyond for us. When he first met with Dr. Spooner, he said, but you know, it would be very, very nice if people could see what the modern day parts of these places look like. And then he and Dr. Spooner went, I would have to call it gallivanting, because I left them meeting and went to another meeting to come back, and I got this WhatsApp message, we'll be on the road taking pictures of some of these places. And at no additional cost, those photos are now a part of this book. And I would like to very much sincerely thank him for his commitment, his continued commitment to improving the quality of product coming out of the museum, whether it be programming, whether it be exhibitions. He is also the designer of the exhibition that you see mounted on our wall. So thank you very much, Mr. Cummins. And last but not least, Miss Anita Daniel. You will see her when you go into the room with the rocking chair and the ray fusion, as a part of those ladies who are talking about their experiences with Hurricane Janet. She is our eldest, I don't want to say our oldest, she is our eldest member. She's the eldest member of the Barbados Museum community. I will leave it up to her whether she wants to tell you how old she actually is. But she is always willing to help, she's always willing to share her stories, and we're giving her a copy of this book, which I believe she's quite excited to receive. Do you want to say a few words, Anita?
Yes, before we started, Dr. Spoon and I became great friends, exchanging stories. I was very happy to meet him. I'm 92 years old. Was born in the 8th of March 1933, same year that the museum was opened to the public. We are both celebrating 92 years this year. I'm also celebrating 30 years with Barb, 55 years with the National NPW. So,
We have one last presentation. Sorry to tell you that that was the last, but it actually wasn't. I thought she was not here, but she actually is. So we're going to also ask the librarian from Samuel Jackson Prescott Institute to come up for their copy. And for those of you who wish to purchase and have your copy of the book signed today, we set up a book signing table right down at the back of the room, and Dr. Spooner will be there in just about 5 minutes. For those of you to whom we have made presentations, we would like to speak with you briefly before you go. I know that some of you have not yet seen the exhibition, and I have some of our student volunteers waiting outside to take you up to see the exhibition as well. So once again, thank you everyone for attending. Dr. Spooner, if you want to make your way down to the back of the room.